Title: My Wife Cheated on Me, and Then the Bodies Started Showing Up, Part 1. Posted by u/thrower_Ohio Twilight, 5 months ago. Ohio isn't the kind of place where things happen. At least, that's what I used to think. I moved to Willow Creek, a sleepy town tucked between cornfields and low hills, back in 2005. I came here with my wife, Natalie. She wanted to be close to her sister. I just wanted to get away from Chicago. Life was quieter, cheaper. People waved when they passed you on the street. We bought a modest home near the edge of town. I taught woodworking at the high school. Natalie helped out at the local library. We didn't have kids. We were fine. Until she cheated on me. I found out the usual way: texts she forgot to delete. One message from someone saved as Mandy Cupcake said, "Last night was insane. Still taste you." Smiling face with horns, I confronted her. She denied it, then screamed at me, then cried. She said it was a mistake. She said it was just once. She said she loved me. That we could work through it. But after that, something in me changed. That's also right around the time the first body was found. January 12, 2007. A girl named Leah Carter. Medical student. Bright, sweet kid. I'd met her once at the school. She was helping out with a career fair. Her body was pulled from the river by a fisherman who nearly passed out when he saw her. There wasn't a mark on her, not a bruise. No sign of struggle. Except for the star. A 5-pointed star, carved neatly into her neck. The cops called it a potential suicide. Some kind of self-harm ritual gone wrong. But nobody believed that. Not when a month later, another girl went missing. Sarah Kim. Same age, same program. And when they found her body, it was almost identical. Star and all. That's when Rick Wilson showed up. Big city detective. Moved like someone used to bodies. People didn't like him much at first, too blunt, too cold. But I liked him. He asked smart questions. He had this way of looking at you that made you spill your guts before you realized it. He told me early on he thought it was a serial. He's smart, Rick said one night when we got a drink. Knows what he's doing. Medical knowledge. Patient. Introvert. Lives alone. This kind of guy blends in. I asked him how he knew. He just stared at me for a second, and said, "Because I've seen him before." Title: My Wife Cheated on Me, and Then the Bodies Started Showing Up, Part 2. Posted by u/thrower_Ohio Twilight, 5 months ago. Rick was staying in a motel near the old interstate. Cheap, barely lit, smelled like mildew and cigarette ash. He said he liked it because no one bothered him there. We sat outside his room the night he told me about the guy from a case 10 years earlier. Said the killer back then was never caught, just disappeared after 3 victims. All med students. All with that same carved star. He was convinced this was the same guy. Natalie didn't care. She was too busy being emotionally confused, or whatever bullshit she was calling it that week. I caught her texting someone again. She swore it was just talking. I knew better. I started sleeping on the couch. Rick kept digging. He told me one thing that stuck: it always starts in the past. Find the beginning, and you'll find the end. So we started looking backwards. Rick pulled records from the old hospital in the next county over, St. Joseph's. Shut down in the 90s. Rumors said it had a psych ward in the basement and that bad stuff happened there. Abuse. Experiments. One file caught Rick's attention: a patient named John Avery, admitted for delusional behavior, removed after a violent incident with a nurse. Released 2 years later, vanished. But there was a twist. John wasn't listed as a patient at first. He was an orderly. One of the staff. The patient file was created after his breakdown. According to notes, he had an obsessive belief in spiritual cleansing through beauty. Whatever that means. Guess where John moved after discharge? Willow Creek. Under a different name. And guess what job he got? Biology teacher. At the same medical school Leah and Sarah attended. His real name was gone from records. But Rick had a lead. A witness who used to work at St. Joseph's, now in hospice care. He agreed to talk. The man's name was Harold Franks. Former janitor. He said he remembered Johnny. Called him real quiet, real intense. Said he used to draw stars in his notebooks and talked about releasing the flesh to make room for the light. I swear to God, I almost threw up. We went to the school. Rick had the administration pull staff records from the last 2 years. One stood out, James Harlan. Hired with nearly perfect credentials. Letters of recommendation that were too good. Like someone had written them all in the same afternoon. Rick was sure it was him. But we couldn't prove it yet. Then Natalie dropped a bomb on me. "I'm pregnant," she said one night. I stared at her. And all I could think was, I haven't touched you in months. Title, My Wife Cheated on Me, and Then the Bodies Started Showing Up, Part 3. Posted by you/thrower_Ohio Twilight, 5 months ago. "I'm pregnant," Natalie said again, as if repeating it would make it more believable. I didn't answer. I just stood there, staring at her, feeling something cold settle in the pit of my stomach. We hadn't been intimate in months, not since I found out she'd been sleeping around. She knew that. We both did. But she didn't flinch. She just gave me that same teary, manipulative look she always used when she wanted something. "I think we should go to therapy," she said next. I wanted to laugh in her face. Instead, I told her what I'd already decided days ago. "I'm filing for divorce." She exploded. Screaming. Accusing. Throwing things. Told me I was abandoning her in her most vulnerable moment. Called me a coward, a monster. Said I didn't deserve to be a father anyway. I didn't say it, but I agreed. She wasn't carrying my kid. And if I'm honest, part of me wondered if she even knew who the father was. Meanwhile, Rick was closing in. We were watching James Harlan, aka John Avery, every day. Campus security had cameras around the medical building, and Rick pulled favors to get access. Harlan had a weird routine, stayed late, walked the halls when no one was around, spent a lot of time near the old basement wing that students said was condemned. One night, he brought a girl down there. It was after hours. No classes scheduled. She looked hesitant on the footage. Nervous. Rick hit the emergency contact button, got a team mobilized in 10 minutes flat. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I came anyway. They found them in one of the storage rooms. She was sitting on a chair. Confused, dazed. He was standing in front of her with a small scalpel in his hand, just about to touch her neck. His fingers were trembling. When the floodlights hit him, he froze like a statue. And then he smiled. No panic. No fear. Just this slow, eerie smile. He said, "I was almost finished." The arrest made headlines. Killer cult teacher caught, every paper in the state ran it. They found his house full of notebooks and diagrams. Pictures. Candles. Bones. He called his rituals, the path to purity. He'd been planning the next one for weeks. The girl he lured. He met her through a tutoring program. Said she reminded him of someone he lost. Said they all did. They found 5 other marked burial sites in the woods behind his house. And one other thing. A notebook with sketches. And in the back, a list of names. Natalie's was on it. Title, My Wife Cheated on Me, and Then the Bodies Started Showing Up, Part 4. Posted by you/thrower_ohio twilight, 4 months ago. When Rick showed me the notebook, I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. There it was, Natalie D., written in the same obsessive, looping handwriting as all the other names. Each victim had a star drawn next to her name. Natalie's had one too. But hers was not filled in. What the hell does that mean? I asked. Rick tapped the page. It means she was next. And he hadn't gotten to her yet. I didn't know what to feel. Horror. Anger. A sick kind of relief. I hadn't loved her for months. The affair had shattered everything between us. And the pregnancy, still unconfirmed, by the way, just felt like one last attempt to keep control. But no matter how much I hated what she'd done, she didn't deserve that. Rick moved fast. Natalie was placed under temporary police protection. She hated it. She kept saying the whole thing was over, that she was fine, that John was just some lunatic and not even that creepy anyway. That last part gave me chills. She admitted she knew him. He tutored me for a computer course, she said. When I wanted to go back to school last fall. You know, get my degree. I didn't know. She never told me she'd enrolled anywhere. Rick gave me a look. One of those "you catching this too?" kind of glances. Turns out Natalie had been visiting the campus a lot more than she let on. Her library volunteer hours were often right across from the same building where the victim studied. She'd met John, James, a few times. Said he was quiet but smart. But then something even darker came out. There were emails. Hundreds of them. Natalie and James had been talking for months. Mostly about philosophy and the beauty of sacrifice. Some of them read like cult ramblings. Some of them read like love letters. And some were worse. One said, "If I die, at least let it be for something beautiful." Another, "He doesn't understand your light. But I do. I'll protect it. Forever." Rick looked at me after reading them and said, "You sure she cheated with just one guy?" I didn't answer. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure anymore. She swore up and down that she hadn't done anything. That James was just obsessed, and she felt sorry for him. That she tried to help him, and he twisted it. But there was something off in her voice. Something too rehearsed. Too calm. Like she wasn't afraid. Like part of her still missed him. And that's when Rick said the thing that kept me up for weeks afterward. "We got the killer. But I'm not convinced we got the whole cult." Title: My Wife Cheated on Me, and Then the Bodies Started Showing Up, Part 5, Finale. Posted by you/thrower_ohio twilight, 4 months ago. I wish I could tell you it ended cleanly. That once James Harlan, John Avery, was locked up, everything went back to normal. But that would be a lie. After the arrest, Natalie changed. She started sleeping with the lights on. Claimed she heard whispers. That something was following her. At first, I thought it was just guilt, or paranoia from the investigation. But the more I watched her, the more I realized, it wasn't fear I was seeing. It was grief. I found her sitting on the kitchen floor one night, just staring at an old notebook. Her hands were shaking. When I took it from her, I saw that she'd written his name over and over on the inside cover. Dozens of times. Scribbled, crossed out, then written again in perfect cursive. He saw me. He made me beautiful. I left that night and never went back. Rick filed an official report to the Bureau, possible cult activity. Multiple accomplices. Victim list may not be complete. They investigated James's home again, tore it apart this time. Found evidence that some of the letters Natalie received hadn't been sent, but dictated. Written in her own hand. In her own words. She wasn't just corresponding with him. She was helping him write. They tried to question her again, but by then, she'd left town. Said she needed space to heal. Moved in with her sister 2 states away. Changed her phone number. Filed a restraining order against me, if you can believe that. Last I heard, she'd started teaching yoga. As for James, he pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. Life sentence. No parole. He spends 23 hours a day in a supermax cell, under psychiatric observation. But here's the thing. About 3 weeks ago, Rick called me. He'd gotten a package from the prison. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside was a small, hand-carved wooden box. Nothing special, just cheap pine, sanded smooth. Rick opened it and found one thing inside. A 5-pointed star, carved into a piece of Natalie's old necklace. And a note. The light lives on. I don't know what that means. I don't know where Natalie really went. I don't know if it's over. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the river. And I swear it's whispering her name. The end.